but the first question we like to ask everyone is, how did your journey as a digital publisher begin?
So it started out on Facebook, actually. We were using Facebook back in 2015 to essentially run ads targeted at different regions, and we could get a lot of people to not only click on stuff, but share the stuff that we were writing about on Facebook. So we started a blog, a website where we would talk about different places to live. So like, for instance, you could write an article about North Carolina and say like, these are the best places you could live in North Carolina. And you could use Facebook to get like, 500,000 people to see it in like a week. So rather than just get Facebook likes and shares, it made more sense to get traffic. So we started publishing these articles on our website, Home Snacks, and we had an immediate hit. For about 2 years, you could really do no wrong on Facebook, especially if you optimized the thumbnails and you knew how to target the ads and you knew when to turn them off when they weren't working. And so we published as much as we possibly could about different areas to live. Typically, rankings that were about, the best places to live, the worst places to live, like the cheapest places to live, like any kind of combination of all of that you could think of to get people to share what it was like to live in their state.
Yeah, and for those listening, you mentioned your website is homesnacks. Is it .com or .net?
We're .com, yeah.
.com. Okay.
.com. So we were .net back in the day, and we've had a lot of success. I mean, we were holding out. It was like $5,000 to buy the .com, and we were like, and so we finally did. So we have two websites. So one was Road Snacks, one was Home Snacks. So Road Snacks was the bad stuff, like the negative content, like the worst neighborhoods.
Gotcha.
And so we separated the good versus the bad and helped on Facebook because we could be a little bit more
like targeted.
Push the envelope more.
Yeah, okay.
The other one, but we're combining both of those soon. So, but yeah, that's how we got started. And then, over time, we accidentally, I guess, not intentionally, acquired a bunch of links right away because the content we were writing was really provocative. So it was getting shared among communities. So like, it was like the best case scenario where you would like go viral and then you would get like media attention without sending emails. So like the community of, you pick Chapel Hill would share this article that would be like Chapel Hill is the #1 place to live in North Carolina. And then all of a sudden North Carolina, Chapel Hill newspapers would see it and they'd be like, hey, this is like going viral on Facebook. Can we talk to you about it? Or they would just write about it and link to it. So we were getting a ton of links from media who were either happy or upset about things we were saying. So we eventually started to rank really high for different topics on, real estate type topics, where to live, where to move, rankings on different things in America. And then it sort of took off from there.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy. And it seems like, you kind of pointed the needle in one direction and inadvertently it kind of snowballed. But going back to your, you mentioned Road Snacks, and I perused your site a bit and I noticed how some articles were linking towards the domain roadsnacks.net. And then you have, homesnacks.com, which is the combined of all that content now. Did you guys do any research beforehand on the niche, or how did you decide on homesnacks.com? And did you do any research beforehand of your niche and the kind of content you were going to create?
So the business partner that I will refer to occasionally, his name is Chris. He's more of the data research guy. I'm more of the marketing, like front of the company guy. I think that there was I think the biggest void that we found was the negative content, to be honest with you. Like nobody had really ranked places to live outside of like the best places to live, And so there was a huge void for people that wanted to know where the worst places were to go. Yeah. That's kind of where we ran. And then when that kind of ended, then it became, neighborhoods, and then it became drunkest places, and then it became best to raise a family. And we were way ahead of the curve back in 2015, and now, we still rank pretty well for a lot of the head terms. But there's other people that have entered the space that have sort of copied the things that we did, and so
Yeah.
they try to, well, we're going to do a story on the best places to raise a family, or like the best neighborhoods in Charlotte. Um, so at the time, yes, it was very groundbreaking, and now I think we stand out more for like the research aspect of things. So the deep dive into the data. It's not
Yeah.
just these are the best places to live, and then they just randomly like pick places. They have a freelancer Google places to live, and usually they steal from us, or they start at us, and then they like branch
Yeah.
off there. There's been a lot of our competitors that will run our exact list in the exact same order.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and so we've sent some letters, and there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's where we're at now. It's sort of an autopilot. I mean, we're still acquiring, links, and we're still getting ourselves out there. But right now, it's essentially just trying to play the Google game
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
try to rank as high as we can with the resources that we have. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
Like how long at that point from when you started? I know you mentioned Facebook and things kind of snowballed with the traffic there. How long did it take you to start seeing traffic growth?
Oh no, I mean it was right away. It was as soon as we published.
Wow.
Okay, so we started. Facebook was really effective right away because you could just push a button and all of a sudden you've got traffic. Like
Yeah.
Facebook doesn't work like that anymore. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't.
I think the biggest spike was when we started doing the negative content. We were
Interesting.
we were running, the best places to live in Florida, and like it was like, and then I said, well, let's just flip the list upside down and put like the worst places, and like that was instantly. So then we went through and we did all of the negative stuff for a while, and then we kind of plateaued, and then I think at some point we started doing YouTube videos based
Okay.
on the same stuff. So we instead of sending people to a page that would have the rankings and the story, it would be a video embedded on the page with the content below it. That was another huge spike. So we kept having these, pivots that we would do, and it was all based on Facebook. So when something on Facebook would break, we would try something else, and then eventually, Facebook's either they made it a lot less easy to go viral. Like they took away the sharing
Hmm.
virality of things, and they made it more expensive. And frankly, we kind of ran out of ideas too, kind of all at the same time.
Hmm.
That was about 2017 when that happened. And then at that point, we kind of just took our, we had all this content. We were like, okay, let's optimize the site so that we could rank as high as we can while continuing to invest in like long tail content topics,
Yeah.
so that we keep the content fresh. Then we started hiring people to update the content. So like every year you've got a new data scrape. So then sometimes you've got a new list of rankings. So you've got to update the content. So we would hire people to like write additional content. And Chris is really good at trying to optimize the site for the latest Google rules. So we were constantly tweaking things, or trying to get links. I mean, we got through periods where like, hey, we're ranking third for
Yeah.
all of our terms. How could we get to number two? Well, we could probably get some links, and then we started building links. So it's this
Okay.
constant back and forth where we're now. It seems to be more about like link building and content, um, new content, and like Google optimization stuff
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
a lot right now, instead of like trying to go viral. It's more about just trying to remain relevant.
Yeah. So you mentioned in the beginning Facebook, social traffic. You then mentioned kind of organic traffic. You building out your content, and then you have tinkered with and tried YouTube, and then now you mentioned kind of like link building. You've been doing looks like strategic SEO, on page SEO, link building, stuff like that. Is there anything else that you've incorporated into your strategy now that you didn't do in the beginning?
Um, I don't really think so. I mean, and those are all just really basic. I mean,
Yeah, no, for sure.
you had like, if you wanted to like ask Chris one day about like the ins and outs of behind the scenes stuff that he does, you would get like probably a lot more interesting stuff about like tricks on how to
Yeah, yeah.
hire. I don't know. But no, I mean, that was really it. Like we kind of backed into it and then just tried to like build the best house we could around the
Sure.
frame that we had constructed. So
Do you have any tips or tricks or advice on link building?
um so I'm probably, I would say I am probably one of the better link builders, only because I can come up with content ideas that I know will resonate. I used to be a journalist, so I know
Okay.
how to talk to journalists. It's always about coming up with content ideas that are timely and relevant, which is basic. But having a strategy where it's more about developing relationships, like small email blasts. Instead of getting 1,000 emails, get like 100 that are relevant and try to make them as geared towards the person that you're trying to do. We've done a lot of different experimenting with link building. So, you have to be willing to try new things. It's not about just trying to get yourself in the media. Sometimes it's about reaching out to different agencies and developing a conversation. Like I'm really good at getting on the phone with somebody. So I'll call and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. What would it take to get us, a link on your website? And then they would say, well, we don't have this, if you could do that. And then usually I would take that back to
Yeah.
whoever was running the site and say, can we do this? And they usually say no. And I'm like, okay, well, why'd you ask me to, you know, have conversations with people? And then you're not going to, and this goes outside of Homestacks. This is like
Yeah.
in my PR world. So to have, the freedom to be able to have the resources and the team to experiment, and then to be able to scale up things when you strike that vein, and you don't know how long you're going to be able to run that link building operation strategy. So if you experiment and you find something works, then you need to chase that down until that stops working. But you need to have a team, and you have the ability and the resources to be able to do that. So it doesn't do you any good to like dip your toe into link building opportunity and then not do anything about it, because you either don't have the ability to scale it, or mostly that reason. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably experimenting, and then just like driving something into the ground when it works. Like
Yeah.
don't exhaust any angle on that until you've tried every single angle, and then you move on to the next one. I mean, once you have one, a lot of people either don't want to experiment, or when they fail, they stop. With us, it was always, don't ever, try everything once. So I'd have a spreadsheet of a bunch of ideas, and we would literally, but I had a good team around me. So like, you have to have a lot of people to be able to try a lot of things.
Yeah.
5 content people and like 5 PR people, whether they're under your own team or contractors, to be able to go out and grab the emails and to be able to put the content together is usually like the way to go.
Yeah, so you mentioned a team, and earlier you mentioned scaling, and that was actually, it kind of bleeds into the next question I was going to ask you. Was that in the beginning, was it just you and your business partner Chris creating content?
Yes.
Or okay,
Yeah.
and then
And then we'd hire somebody, like, so like if we found something worked, like we did these redneck videos that like people thought were just really, yeah, they were very highly shareable.
mhm.
We had to make 50. We had to make one for every state. So we would be like,
Oh
okay,
wow.
contractor, let's make a video for every. And so we would like do them as fast as we could. And then when that was done, then it was like, okay, we don't need help with that. And then we would try something else. So it was this constant, like, just he and I, and then there'd be like 4 of us working on it. And then it was just back to he and I. So we were like, whenever there was an opportunity to like scale something, we would bring on contractors. I mean, we didn't have to hire anybody.
Yeah. So how do you find those contractors? And then more importantly, how do you monitor them for quality? Like, how do you know if what they're giving you is quality content, and if it's going to work for you guys?
So we used to give them a test. So like, it depends on what they're doing. If they're just collecting emails, then you give them 20 emails, and you're like, or like go get 20 emails that meet this
Mm-hmm.
criteria, and if they're good, then they're like, okay, and it doesn't take them forever. Then they're fine. So you have to just give them a little bit of a test and then hope that they do well. But when you're going overseas, so like Philippines, there's a lot of, a big learning curve, because you're always trying to make sure that the people that are doing the work are the people that you hired, or that, you turn your back one time and they'll not do a good job. So when you find a good person, you keep that person and you ask them, do you have any friends or relatives? That's usually the good way to go when you go overseas, is you literally put an ad up and you hire 20 people right away for like a quick little job, and then take the time, look and see who did good. You'll get like maybe 10% of them will pass, and then one of those 10 or one of those 2 will last. So you got to spend a little bit of money. I think
Yeah.
Chris said it was like $100 you waste to find one good contractor on Upwork, because you got to have like $5 jobs and give them a little quick task. So you're wasting, bunches of money. But then when you find a good one, hopefully they stick around.
Yeah. Yeah. From what you said, it seems like you have a good team around you now, people for PR, contractors, you said, for emails, content creation. So in terms of the actual content production, if you can look back at 2015, like how much content did you produce in a month at the very beginning versus now? What does that difference look like?
We did way more at the beginning.
Really? Oh, interesting.
Well,
It's usually the opposite with people I interview. It's usually like, oh, I did, all myself at the beginning, a little bit, and then we do a ton now. But that's interesting. I want to hear more about
no,
that.
we did, like, I spent like 12 hours a day, like just writing as much as I
Wow.
could. Um, and then we got to a point that we had written, thousands of articles, either by hand, or we computerized them, or we hired people to do it. But I think at this point, like, it's more about just sort of, keeping the fire going on the side, rather than like, getting it, or I guess stoking it rather than building it. So we've talked about, experimenting with big data dumps and huge amount of content, but we haven't really gone there yet. I think it's in the
Yeah.
plans but we're ranking higher than we've ever ranked. Google, we had a setback because we were chasing Google's algorithm down last year, and at some point they started ranking very poorly written short content higher than long form content,
Yep.
which was frustrating because we had invested a lot of time in writing long form, which Google loved forever. And then all of a sudden they were ranking people and we were like, okay, the theory was that Google was going to basically like reward sites that just got to the point and gave people what they wanted without all the fluff and the intros and the outros and all the stuff. So we were like, oh. So then we like all of a sudden invested some time in like writing very short content, and that got weird because then at some point Google said, no, wait, never mind, we like it long again. So I think we're more about like writing out what we're currently doing, and then trying to just, if there's small changes, we'll try to optimize for those. But trying to build an entire strategy around one like Google update is just maddening.
Yeah. And it's also really hard to do. And let's see here. I saw on your site that you have all of those categories, like cheapest, safest, most dangerous places in America. And then I also read on your about page this byline that you combine data from dozens of sources into bite-sized articles to help people understand what it's like to live in different places across America. What was like, where do you source that information from? And like, what was the thought process behind that choice?
The thought process started before we even had home stacks. We had been kind of going back and forth about unique ways to rank places. And, it was like, well, if you wanted to rank the dumbest places, you could look at, the the IQ levels of a place, but then at the same time, the IQ level doesn't always, it's underestimated. So then we'd be like, okay, well, let's add college graduation rates. And then, okay, somebody's already done this before, so let's combine theirs into the algorithm so that we can have the most complete look at what it was like in a different place so we could rank them more effectively. So that's kind of how we got started, was how many different criteria could we decide would finally make sense to be able to rank somewhere. So the census has a lot of stuff. I mean, you can get stuff on Yelp. I mean, if you wanted to do the fattest places, you could look at, you know, who has the most fast food per capita. If you wanted to do the, you know, the places with the most, you know, the environmentally friendliest places, you would look at the places that have the most, you know, I don't know, Trader Joe's or whatever, where those people that are like liberals or whatever. So, I mean, and we would take a lot of slack because a lot of people said that we would, you know, who are you to decide that my city is number 3 on this just because of your, you know, and they're right. I mean, we kind of like, you know, we threw in what we thought would make sense, but you know, the way Chris always said it was about the kind of stuff that you could argue with somebody at a bar about, you know, and then it became infotainment because it was like information, and we had to make disclosures because we're like, okay, this is entertainment too. Like, you know, it's information, but it's also supposed to be amusing and insightful, and, you know, you're supposed to learn a little bit. Like, it's not just straight, you know, census data only. So we can get it from anywhere. And then Chris had, you know, unique ways to go out, and he would just download PDF or XLSs and put them into a sheets and sort them to spit out like an unbiased look at what it's like to live in a different place. So
that's awesome. And going into monetization, how did you monetize your website in the past, and how do you want to monetize your website now?
So it was just straight Google AdWords for a while, or Google Ads, I guess, whatever Google does with their automatic ads. And then we chased down some business partners that we were trying to work with. We found a couple that did some, you know, click-through, you know, payment structure plans with related industries, real estate, because we rank so high for real estate terms. It made sense that we should have like partners in that regard. So we've had a few of those come through there. And then you guys joined at some point 3 years ago, I think. We started running your ad networks on, which has really helped. So, you know, at some point it became evident that we're maxed out on display ads. You know, you can only have so many outbound clicks on your site that before you start to rank low. So we're trying to strike a fine balance between, you know, monetizing the site, you know, as optimized as we can, but like not becoming like a shit show of like ads and clicks that like not only makes people leave, but also like makes Google upset. So
Are there any other monetization strategies you want to try in the future? Affiliate, anything like that? Anything looking to the future?
Yeah, we tried affiliate stuff and it was crap. I mean, we would put links on our site, and either nobody would click, or we would have either nobody clicked, people clicked, but the pay was so bad, or they lied and said nobody clicked and said we didn't pay any. Like, basically, you know, nobody clicked, and we're like, yeah, we sent 1,000 people over to your site today. You're telling me nobody bought anything? Oh no, we didn't have that many. So it was really hard for us to trust the affiliates. So we dumped all that stuff. We have not gone in that direction again. In terms of like the low, like the stuff that you would find on, what's the website that lists all of the affiliate, like the affiliate network? There's 2 big ones. I can't remember the name.
That lists them? I'm not sure. I mean, I know Amazon's like the biggest probably, but
no, there's a couple websites. ClickBank.
Oh yeah, ClickBank. Yeah,
There's a couple other ones that like can't remember the names, but you know, we'd go in and we'd sign up for different affiliates just to try to see what would happen, and they were crap. Like, so we were like, forget this stuff. So you know, we're always in the you know, down to try new affiliates. We've had people come to us, and we had one guy, I created a post, made it go viral. It was like some backwoods, like sportsman's warehouse in Georgia, I think it was. And I was like, look, dude, we're gonna launch this redneck cities in Georgia thing. It's gonna get like 500,000 views in like a week. Like they all go crazy viral. And he's like, okay. And I was the only sales guy. So I got him to commit to some sort of affiliate where we get like 10% of all sales. Well, of course he like lied and said, I didn't have any clicks. And I was like, dude, I know you had like thousands of clicks. So that was like on the very end of shady of like, you know, he was not an actual like affiliate. We had a verbal agreement that we were going to like look at the back end and see how many things he sold. And so, but then the more serious we got, we still couldn't find any of those affiliates that they were all, you know, it was like 1 cent a click, or not even that. It was like 0.01 cents a click. And
yeah, that's not worth the potential damage to UX, or just, you know, your visitors seeing like, oh, you know, this person is just like, you know, maxing out everything on their site to the point where it's not even, you know, user friendly anymore.
So Chris and I have talked about, I mean, there's stuff we could chase down. I'm pretty good on the phone, you know, I don't mind going out and reaching out to people and but we have pretty good relationships right now with people we have. So I don't think there's really, especially because the negative stuff we couldn't get anybody that wanted to work with us on the negative content. In terms of, you know, why am I going to put a link on the worst places to live? Although we did have some affiliates that were like security related, that were like, you know, alarm systems and all that, but they still paid back. And nobody, like, we didn't trust them. So we finally got somebody that is now going to work with us on some of the like negative content. They're like, I don't care if somebody clicks on a place to live, we'll pay you. I don't care if it's based on a negative place to live or a positive place. So that was pretty good. I think if I had more time, I would probably chase down more affiliates or try to just boost our overall bottom line by just, you know, increasing the types of places people are going to click off of too, from our site. But again, we have a really good relationship with the folks we're working with. So like, I don't want to rock the boat.
And then lastly, if you could tell your old self any advice before you got homesnacks.net, or .com, before you started this public journey with what you know now, what would you say?
Looking back, like I would just say, don't change anything, to be honest with you. Like we've been blessed, man. Everything's worked out really well. Yeah.
Like, don't fall for the hype. Has there been people in this publishing space who try to get you to, you know, look at what's shiny, what's new, and stuff like that?
No, not really. I mean, all the things that we tried that didn't work weren't huge setbacks, and we learned and we knew what to not do anymore again anyway. And it wasn't a huge time commitment. It was just experimenting with things, you know, try everything. And if it works, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it again.
Fair enough. All right, Nick. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Yeah, man. All right. And if you're watching this, if you need help with PR, I can help you.
Yes, actually, I forgot to mention that. Is there any places people can find you? And I put any social channels, you know, the websites?
Yeah, so, they can go to homesnacks.com and email us if they want. You know, we do consult. Chris is really good at back-end consulting. I'm really good at, you know, the PR side and link building, media relations. I am on YouTube, Nick Johnson. You'll see like hundreds of videos on what it's like to live in different places. So I'm on there. If people wanted to subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be cool. But if you subscribe, you better watch them, because if you subscribe to my channel and you don't watch them, that hurts me. So if you're not going to watch them, don't subscribe. No.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that's where they can find me. We're not really big on anything else except YouTube, really, anymore. Facebook, it's a broken toy, so we don't play with it anymore.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate you speaking with me today, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, Alan. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.